Welcome back, everyone. We have Patrick from Nite. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Emily?
I'm doing great, man. Well, let's get into this. This is your guys' third record. How has the writing and recording process changed since your guys' first and second record?
It's changed not immensely, but I think we've really evolved our sound and our approach to recording. So the first album was I'm gonna say about 80% Van Labrakis, our lead singer and guitarist. He is a demoing maniac. He will present us with upwards of 50, 60, sometimes 70 demos per album, which we whittled down to the magic number of 8, which we love as an album length. So when we recorded Voices of the Coronian Moon, it was during the pandemic, so that changed things. Obviously, it was a different approach,
Right.
but we were also trying to write a more, I think, epic sci-fi kind of like maybe a more hopeful album, which I think was reflected in the sound. And now with Cult of the Serpent Sun, which comes out on March 14th on Season of Mist, it's a lot more back to earth, exploring sort of the history of underground, cult and evil and kind of like the more sort of sinister parts of mankind. And we're definitely more physically underground, as evidenced by the cover art. It's a lot of molten lava and
Right.
skeletal figures of the underground. So the writing process, we demo heavily. We have our own recording studio. Van is a music engineer that's been working for over 25 years in the industry. So we record, mix, master all our own stuff, which gives us a lot of sort of creative freedom. And I think with this album, the thing that I really came away with after the recording was that it was our most collaborative and our most kind of, involved in the sense that we all had a hand in crafting the stories and the lyrics and all the musical passages and, trying to just keep up with Van and his manic demoing pace.
That's that's crazy. Like 70 demos. How do you narrow that down? Do you guys go like, man, is there any ones that you wish did make it on the record that
Oh
didn't?
yeah. Oh, totally. And that's, honestly, that's the challenge is like we have a huge repository, obviously, of tracks that didn't make the album afterwards. And a lot of times we'll sort of earmark riffs and be like, you know what, that riff or that passage or that transition or that bridge was awesome. Let's remember that. And so we'll kind of tag and mark things and try to revisit them. There's definitely things that didn't make it onto the first album even, and that we demoed probably back in 2017, and we're
Damn.
still holding on to like this might fit, but it always has to, it has to fit the vibe of the record. It has to
Of
fit
course.
the atmosphere and the sort of approach that you're taking for that album. So with this album, we had a very distinct, clear vision of what we wanted to sound like and feel like and look like. Have a
Right.
little bit more of a kind of like a cinematic, holistic, all-encompassing sort of approach. So there were a few riffs and things that we kind of brought back from the second album
Nice.
that just didn't fit that personality, and then we use them on this record. So yeah,
So
it's
you
great.
reworked so you guys reworked them a bit and made them the new Night sound?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting and challenging with an artist like Van, who's so prolific,
Mhm.
is that it forces you to be a really good editor, and that's really hard. Musicians are not always the best editors, especially of their own work.
Of
So I
course.
think we've gotten really good at we record everything we
Of
play.
course.
So when we're in the rehearsal space, if we're preparing for a tour, if we're preparing for a show, if we're just rehearsing the album to get
Mhm.
to know the songs better, we record every piece of music we play
Dang.
as soon as we plug in. And what that does is similar to like this, sorry for the sports analogy, but it's similar to like somebody recording themselves, a football player watching video of them playing, because you feel yourself doing something, but it never actually looks or sounds like the way you think it feels, right? So like that might have felt really good when we did that take of the new song, but
Yeah.
then we have the tape to go back and review later and be like, you know what, like that was a little shaky on the bridge, or that solo could use some work, or like the timing shifted a little bit here. So it's great
Right.
for us to do that and like really keep ourselves honest as artists. And also, so, I mean, it's made us much better players too. Our live show has I think really been accelerated to a different dimension because we're very brutally honest about how well or not well we're playing something.
That's crazy. I've never heard like I interview a lot of bands. I'd never heard someone actually record like themselves. That's pretty cool. With you rewatching those, you ever go, well, that drum fill or that drum spot does not fit there. I think I'll do something different there.
Totally, totally. And it's for me as a drummer, I think historically I've been a lot looser and sort of more improvisational and trying things,
Yeah,
you know, which I still do. I'm not going
of
to say
course.
that like, you know, every set is the same, because every time you see us play, it's a different, you know, there's slightly different parts of the music. But I think what it's done for me personally, I can't speak to the other guys, but it's made me know that I know when I nail it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? There's never a
of course.
question. There's never a moment where you're like, huh, like I wonder if this fill is gonna fit in here. I'm gonna come out of this section and feel on top of it. I know before I even start it. And a lot of that has to do with you know, again, reviewing our rehearsals, being
Mhm.
really brutally honest with our playing and our performance, but also just little things like, and this is getting way into the weeds, but just like having, you know, we all wear in-ear monitors on stage now.
Yeah.
We've moved to mostly a wireless rig and system, and I have, you know, click tracks that I
Nice.
start every song with. I don't play to click the whole set because we kind of still, you know, tend to move around a little bit in the timing of things. But even just starting the song, you know, 8 bars, 16 bars of the click to bring me into it, it keeps me super honest. So like even if it's a
Good though.
show where like adrenaline's pumping, like our endorphins are fucking raging, we're like, yeah, like you want to play everything way faster, but the click, it takes you back down to earth. Like, okay, cool. Like this is the actual, like, you know, this is the timing of this. We gotta stay true to it. So but all those little details I think really come across, and having more confidence on stage and really
Yeah.
presenting a much better version of the band.
Of course. And with you being a drummer, has your setup changed or your technique changed since the beginning of this band at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, you're a musician, right?
Yeah, I'm a bass player.
Yeah, so you know, like you're probably always experimenting with pedals or setups or like, you know, heads or inputs. I mean, like there's always something you can be messing with. For me, I just, if I had all the money in the world, I would probably own like hundreds of snare drums. I'm a snare drum addict. I don't I keep it very, I have less than 10, which is great. But yeah, I've definitely adjusted my setup a lot throughout the history of the band. Added some drums, taken away some drums, but I think at the core is I play a pretty small kit.
Mhm.
I definitely come from like a 70s, 80s rock. Like those are the drummers I admire, you know, the
Okay.
like Cozy Pals and Bonhams and Vinny Appici, like, you know, people that
Of course.
played huge stadium giant sets, but like at their core, they were kind of like rock drummers that played a 4-piece setup.
Yeah.
But live, yeah, I've kind of expanded, added a few more drums, added a like a sampler pad, and like I said, the click track, and then I I am slowly working in a lot more double kick too, which is
Nice.
interesting because I kind of at first I didn't want it to be a double kick band. I was like, you know, like we're not Bolt Thrower,
Right.
as much as I love Bolt Thrower, and I'm a gigantic fan, but like we don't have those kind of sections or passages. But as the band's evolved, I want to work in a little bit more tasteful kind of like double kick playing. But you know, it's not going to be Dave Lombardo Slayer or anything. But it's always fun to experiment. It's always, I think, pushes you out of your comfort zone to try new things.
What about like stick technique? Have you changed that at all?
No, you know, I think a big part of our live show for me is you know, this is the as a member of the esteemed rhythm section of the band, you're not always the first one that people notice. So
Right.
like the bass player Avinash and myself kind of always talk about ways that we can bring in sort of like more of our personality into the live show, and that's either him and I interacting in a certain part of the song where maybe Scott and Van are soloing or trading solos, you know, synchronized moves or whatever. I'm a very flamboyant drummer. Like I have a lot of like sticks above my head and like lots of hair flying, but like
Nice.
I'm the sweaty ogre sitting in the back that nobody can see. So like I have to do everything I can to kind of make
Of
myself
course.
noticed. And so I think technique for me is, again, like I think watching a lot of videos of live performance, watching some like later stage rehearsal videos where we're trying to work on some of maybe our choreography within the set to try to, like, you know, be like, okay, like here's a moment where I can really bring it.
Yeah.
and get some sort of, get some sort of attention or spotlight on myself. But yeah, it's always a work in progress.
And you talk about all these other drummers you look up to. With you writing your drum parts, do you have, like, any Easter eggs of, like, you sneaking in little drum parts of drummers you actually appreciate?
I mean, always. I think so. In the demoing process, a lot of times, because Van's so prolific as a demoer, I will actually just bring him drum beats, nothing else written. I will just record like a minute or two of like, here's one passage into something else with a transition, and it's amazing that we've written entire songs around just me
That's
demoing the
crazy.
drum part. And I will be totally honest, most of the drum parts that I'm writing come from a song I love or a drummer I love, and I'm just trying to play what they're playing. Usually not as well. And so it ends up always sounding different. Like, I think that probably as an artist and a musician, like even if you try to imitate your heroes, you're never going to do it the same as
Of
they do. And
course.
that's cool. Like you make it your own thing, you take ownership of it, you present your version
Right.
of, the best way you could play it. And so like that's exciting though. I think that's what's great working with Van. He's super open-minded, and I can bring him anything. And he's like, he might not use it, or he might only use a sliver of it, but he's like, oh, that section is really cool. I have a guitar line that I've been playing that would fit perfectly with that, and it might become a bridge to a song or something. And that's exciting. I love that.
And what bands were you listening to during this demoing process?
Oh man. Because this is a darker, sort of heavier album, me personally, I was listening to a lot more black metal influenced stuff. I think a huge touch point between Van and myself is the band Ara Noir. Like their just atmosphere they have in their recordings. We talk a lot about, so like we don't necessarily sit and analyze full albums, but we'll talk about, Ara Noir recordings have this presence.
Mm.
There's something about the way that those recordings are made where it's like there's a specter in the room with you or something. And we talked a lot about that. How do we bring in this sort of like outside, whether it's malevolent or nice or or happy, or like how do we infuse atmosphere into our recordings and really make it feel like there's maybe this like third thing with you while you're listening. And a band like Art Noir does that
So I'm
perfect.
guess so
It
I'm
did.
guessing I'm guessing you guys bring the Ouija board in to bring that atmosphere, and I'm just kidding.
I'm a big fan of the Kevin S. Tenney film Witchboard, starring Tawny Katane. Very great film. If you haven't seen it, it's about a Ouija board, and it's hilarious 80s horror film.
Oh, that's some of the best. And you guys talked about demoing and all that. Do you guys as a band have any like rituals going into the studio that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit asynchronous and broken up because we have our own studio, and because Van's our engineer and we're able to sort of record on our own time. We don't have to necessarily all go in at the same time. So a lot of times we end up just individually tracking just based on how you build a record. So obviously like most things start with the drums. Van writes a lot on bass. So a lot of times we'll actually just record like drums and bass first. He'll have a demo that I sort of play to, and then the bassist Avi will come in and put the bass tracks over the demo. But we are very fortunate enough to be a band in San Francisco that has our own studio and has our own space, that we have like a 24-hour lockout room, which is not everyone here because it's a just very expensive place to live. So we really take advantage of that, and we spend a lot of time in the room sort of like sitting and discussing parts and ideas and vibes, and like then we sort of once we're all ready we go and do it. But yeah, it's more kind of recording process for us is one person at a time.
That makes sense. And with these names of the tracks, they're very interesting. Were there names before this? Like I know when I interviewed Bumblefoot, he had like certain weird names for each track, like G minor C or something, like weird stuff. He was
Totally.
So did you guys have
So
stuff like that?
yeah, what's really interesting is, like, as I mentioned, like Van demos so much that he has to name everything, or we can't keep track of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's Greek, so a lot of his demo names actually come to us in Greek, or a sort of like a reference to some kind of Greek archetype or Greek sort of mythology. So most of our demo tracks are like shit that the rest of us dumb Americans can't even pronounce, and he has to explain to us what they are. The names change throughout the recording process once the lyrical themes start to evolve, and we start to kind of create some of the mythology or story around whatever that album is, we'll adjust the names then. But really, some of the songs don't actually get titles until we've written all the lyrics,
Crazy.
have the chorus, and then we're like, yeah, this is it. I mean, for instance, our first single we released off Cult of the Serpent Sun is called Crow,
Mhm.
Fear the Night. And Van was like dead set on, he's like, this song is called Crow. It just, to me, it just feels like a crow, like, looming above you. And I'm like, cool. But we're saying Fear the Night in the chorus. Like, maybe we should have that as part of the song title too. So we were able to work, both of them together. But it's a process of kind of how the song evolves too. So yeah.
And this has a perfect flow. I listened to it from start to finish. And did you guys have any lineups before this actual one? Or did you guys have a few?
As far as like the album
Or
order, like
track,
the track
yes,
listing,
yes.
yeah, that's a great question, and we argue, I think, endlessly about that. And as a musician and someone in a band, I'm sure you recognize this process as well. Once we have the songs narrowed down to the 8 that we know are going to be on the record, we all create individual playlists. We sit with those playlists, and then we force each other to listen to our version of the what we think the playlist should be, which was a great experience because like it causes some really, I mean, very good natured arguing. I say arguing like we're just fucking with each other, but like, like how could you have this song second? What are you thinking? Like that's insane. It'll never work. But like, it's amazing how impassioned these kind of like arguments become, in that you believe in something so much, and then like I'll listen to Scott, our guitarist, version. I'm like, oh, actually that's way better. And it's like hearing the album for the first time. I will say the one thing we all agreed on, and the one thing that did not move from the moment it was written, was the song The Mystic. That was always the middle of the record to us. Like that's the heart of the album, and it's always been song 4 because it's this transition. Like it's like it brings you into the end of the first side of the record and then transitions you onto the second half of the album.
That's actually a great way to look at it. Did you guys so you guys decide who actually won the track thing? Do you guys put it in a hat and go, "Oh, this is," I'm just kidding.
we do come to we genuinely come to a consensus, and I think, but it takes months and months of just, we give ourselves that lead time. Typically we'll know our release date sometimes a year or two in advance, depending on what our label's availability is to release our album. So we have a target date, and we know, and we're like, okay, here's our deadline for when mixing, mastering is done, but we'll argue up till the last minute. But yeah, we always come to a good agreement on what it should be. And I think, to me, like the sequencing of this album, and I think the pacing of it, it's the best. Yeah, it's the best thing we've ever done, for sure.
That makes sense. And for you, were any of these songs challenging to record for this record?
Unfortunately, yes. And now that we're in rehearsals for our album release show and some of the touring we have planned this year, I'm realizing how challenging some of these songs are to play live. And it's because it's such a different thing, right? Like in the recording studio, you're in such a controlled environment, and our recordings are all done to a click, like 100%. I play to a click. You have to. There's a grid. I mean, like my day job, I'm a designer, like a graphic designer, and like I can't design something without a grid. And it's not because I'm not a good designer. It's like the grid actually gives you freedom because you are able to sort of move within that space. And so recording these songs, having a click, being in the studio, being comfortable, being in my own kit, having like my headphones in, and just, it's usually dark, and we have candles lit, and it's, it's great. Like it's super comfortable. Having to bring those to the stage with everything else going on, even though we have, in your monitors, we generally have a good mix with each other. It's like, there's so many variables that happen. And I'm realizing like all the challenges of some of these songs. They're deceptively hard. I think what's interesting about a band like Nite is that you listen to it and it sounds very easy. And a great touchstone for me is always the band AC/DC. Non-musicians especially are like, oh, AC/DC, like that's so easy and mid-tempo and slow. Yeah, sit down and try to play an AC/DC song correctly, especially as a drummer. And I mean, and the rhythm guitarist Malcolm was like
amazing, one of the best
of all time. Like, but you could maybe play an AC/DC song, but can you play it right?
Right.
Actually right. And so like that's, for us, that's kind of the vibe too. Like I can play these songs passively, but I want to play them right, like right down to the core, like, because it's like it came from me, and I want to be able to do the song justice. So still working on it. It's a work in
Of course.
progress.
And you guys announced that you guys are gonna do a listening party where you guys get to hear the fans get to hear the tracks, a few weeks before they come out. What made you guys want to do something like that?
So our label Season of Mist actually pitched that idea to us, which they don't do with every band, and they just kind of have like a deal with Bandcamp where they offer a certain number of opportunities to do that, and we jumped at it because we have been sitting on this album for a little while now, and we knew that we were targeting a release date of March of this year of 2025. So we've been so excited for the public to hear this, and the response that we've gotten from journalists and the media and people that have gotten a preview of the album has been so phenomenal that we jumped at the chance to be able to like actually get the public at large a shot at hearing the record before anybody else can. So that's super exciting. I can't wait for that. That was just announced yesterday with Cult of the Serpent Sun, the single being released. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
When I did my questions, I was like, I have to add that in there just because it just got announced too.
Just got announced yesterday. Yeah.
And then you guys are talking about touring and all that stuff. You guys have like 2 records before this. How do you guys come up with the set list and how often do you change it?
Most of the set list is what we think is going to work live, right? We take it out, we either tour on it or play some shows locally here in the Bay Area or in California, and we see what the crowd reacts to. So most of the set has been sort of evolved from crowd reactions. A lot of times the song you think is going to work live, you put in the set and it just doesn't connect with people for whatever reason. It might be a great song. There's just songs that maybe work better in the studio and songs that maybe work better live. So we're always trying to refine our set to really play to that audience reaction and that feedback that we're getting from people. A great example would be the song from the last song from Voices of the Cronian Moon, the Trident, was not originally going to be a single. We weren't originally going to make a video for it, but when we toured and played that song live, especially at Hell's Heroes, the first time we played the Hell's Heroes Festival in Houston, the reaction we got from people was over the top. People are like, "That's my favorite song. I love it. That's that last song on the record. It's so good. It's my." And we're just like, "Holy shit! Like we need to really like highlight and feature this song." So we actually kind of went back and late released it as a single, made a video for it, and now it's become a staple in the set. And people still tell us that it's their favorite song, and it's like mind blowing because I was like, I kind of personally was like, I love the song, but I never thought of it as like the song on the record, So that's what's great is like hearing how enthusiastic people get about a song that you didn't think was maybe the star. But you have to listen to people. You have to trust your audience is always going to know they're going to know your music almost in a way better than you do. Right. Because like at the end of the day, like we can make these albums and we can make this art and I can play the drum parts, but like, it's not for me. Like, I'm not the audience. If the crowds and the fans and the people that are like in love with our music tell us this is what I like, that's what it is. That's the truth.
That's a perfect answer. With you talking about the Trident, do you think there's a song off of this record that you feel is going to hit like almost exactly the same?
So it's funny you say that because, friends that have gotten a preview of the record, mostly industry people, people in the press, people in the media, have really latched on to the last song on the record again. It's called The Winds of Sokar. And again, a song that I personally loved and loved recording. And there's a few touches in that song that I was sort of personally responsible for in that, like, I had to, basically pin Van to the ground and say, we're doing this. Like, it just like, there was little parts in it that I was like, this is going to really make this song. But again, like I recorded that song so long ago in my mind that it kind of like dissipated a little. And now that the album is kind of out in the world a little bit and people are hearing that song, they're like, that song, people told us that's their favorite Nite song of all time. I'm just like blown away because I'm like, I kind of forgot about it in a way. So like but what's great is it makes me, really excited to play it again and, potentially play it live, make it part of the set. So yeah, I think it's, again, we're just trying to learn from our audience and just really be open to kind of like that critical feedback, whether it's good or bad. Like a lot of feedback we got from our first album in reviews you know, and we got great reviews for the first record, which we were a totally unknown band. Nobody knew who the fuck we were. But we got a lot of feedback like that. Yeah, I love this album, but I feel like the songs are maybe a little too long, or they just, you know,
Yeah.
maybe one too many parts or something. And we took that seriously. And our second record, we really cut down the song times. We were really brutal about the editing process because, like, we want to make songs for our fans that love our music, but we don't need to stick around too long. Like, say we got to say and get out.
Right. And talk about set lists, and what would your dream set list be for you?
Does it have to be my band, or can it be like Black Sabbath? Or
We can make it fun and do it something fun like that.
no, I don't know. My dream set list, honestly, like are the songs that I feel like I had a hand in kind of creating. And so, because I'm not a guitarist, I don't write music. It's interesting. The last interview I just did, the interview was asking me about guitar tunings, and I'm like, dude, I'm a fucking drummer, man. Like, I barely know how to tune my drum kit. So, the things that I get really excited about are sort of like specific beats that I play that I get, I don't know, I get really sort of like in the zone with. And like, the Trident is a great example. On this record, Call to the Serpent Sun, the single we just released yesterday, has these just really like staccato, like pounding rhythms. And like, it just, I don't know, it brings me into this very kind of like primal, it's such a drummer cliche, but like this primal kind of like, I don't know, prehistory sort of like place where like the rhythms of the music you're playing, you start to get like, I don't know, it's really like, we talk about, I think as a rhythm section, most things are in 4/4 time because it kind of like mimics the human heartbeat. Like you're trying to sort of like play to people's physiology in a way. So yeah, I think Call to the Serpent Sun on the new album, Winds of Sokar on the new album. Crow is a really fun song to play because it's like very mid-tempo and open, and I get to just do these big like stick twirls and like change hands and like just do a bunch of like bullshit smoke and mirror stuff with it, which is always super fun from a performance standpoint. Yeah.
And we can't not talk about Crow, the music video. Was there any challenging filming with that, but what was some of the fun parts for you?
I will have to say that production of that video for Crow, Fear of the Night, who was made by our very good friend Marcel, who is in an incredible band from Oakland, California called Vorlust, Vorlust. If you're not familiar with them, go check them out right away. It's her project. She sings and plays bass, and she is a fucking force of nature. We went to Marcel with a concept and this song and presented it to her, and knew that she would knock it out of the park. But we kind of, were like trying to maybe force our hand a little bit too much, in that we had this concept and this idea. And immediately, as soon as we had a few calls with her and meetings with her, backed away and said, you know what, just do whatever you want. Like, we trust you. Like, this is your video. This is your idea. This is your concept. And she took that and ran with it. We showed up to the video shoot, and it was the most efficiently run shoot I've ever been a part of. She has a great director of photography she works with. She has a great crew and a great staff. She's set up all of the locations. She built all of the sets. She got all of the extras like arranged. It was like, it ran like clockwork. And I will say, shooting a music video is not always fun.
Right.
You're aware. It can be really hard work and really long days. And this was like the most fun I've ever had shooting a music video. And I think it comes through in the video. Like, it's the best. Yeah, it's the best, I think, video presentation of the band we've ever had. And the numbers we've gotten on this, like, it's been out for just over 3 weeks. And I think we have like over 160,000 views on YouTube, which, like, for a band like us, like, that's a big deal. Like, we don't get those kind of numbers, especially in just a matter of weeks. So we're very excited that the rest of the world is as excited as we are about the record,
And I'm assuming there's other music videos that will come out, but is there any songs that you guys haven't done a video to for this record that you'd love to?
Yeah, I mean, we always try to keep that open. So similar to what happened with the Trident, where we didn't make a video right away, but kind of came back to it.
Yeah.
We were going to try and get the album released and do a little bit of like road testing some of the songs and
That's
see what
smart though.
people like, you know? And so I think we're going to really try to focus on what is the song that's hitting the hardest and what are people reacting to the most, and maybe make a music video for that. But yeah, it's as you know, as a musician, it's always like a matter of like time,
Right.
budget. You know, we don't have a huge amount of money. Obviously, you know, Season of Mist helps us out as much as they can, but we're not you know, we're not a Ghost or a Metallica, so we're just trying to squeeze as much out of the small budgets that we have as we can. So yeah, but we love making videos, so we'll do as many as we can.
And with you guys touring on this record, if you could have a dream tour lineup, what would your dream tour lineup be?
Oh man, okay. So I will say that we're working on a tour right now that we can't announce because
Of course.
it's still in the works. But we're going to hit some ideally markets we have not hit yet in the U.S., which we desperately need to get to the East Coast because we've done a ton of touring on the western half of the U.S. We're from California, so it makes sense that we've toured the West way more, but we need to get to the East Coast. And the band that we are planning the tour with is our dream.
Ooh.
It's our dream band to tour with. They're one of our favorite bands in the US right now, and they're some of our favorite people. So honestly, like the tour that's I
Is
really
your
hope
dream?
I really hope we can announce it soon because I'm like it's killing me that I can't talk about it. It might be my dream tour because I just fucking love this band so much. You know, in Europe, yeah, we need to get to Europe and we need to play
Of
some of the
course.
festivals and just, you know, and for us, we have a great European booker that we've been working with, and we've gotten a few offers and we've had a few things presented to us, and for whatever reason, scheduling wise or life, just it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
So after we can get to the East Coast and tour, Europe is going to be next on our radar. So keep a
Nice.
lookout for that.
And then with you guys touring with so many bands, what are things that you take and bring to your own band or yourself, learning wise?
We learned a ton on so the first official tour we did as Nite. Um, we were on our way out to Hell's Heroes, and we were kind of like just gonna put together our own tour. And then through Season to Miss, we got connected with the band Bewitcher from Portland,
Ooh,
and that was
nice.
the first band we actually did a tour with was Bewitcher. And I don't know if you know those guys, but we became very fast friends. And honestly, like because they were such a road experienced touring band, we learned a ton from them. Just watching them play every night, just setting up in front of them and like watching their sound check, watching how they did things, watching how they presented their their merch. Like you just pick up little details along the way, and also their bassist Andy is like one of the most generous and like one of the kindest people ever. Like he wants to share everything. Like he's like, oh yeah, dude, let's talk about this. Like, so I talk with him all the time. Like we're very close friends. I actually did a tour with Bewitcher back in 2023. I filled in when we
Nice.
were supporting Cavalera. So we did like a full US tour.
That's pretty
So I've
cool.
spent a lot of time in the van with with those guys, with Matt and Andy. Um, but amazing band, and it's bands like that that are just hardworking touring
Mhm.
bands that are not maybe on a huge national level, but like those are the bands we look up to and respect so much that have just put in the time and the effort. And like what's cool about Bewitcher too is all the bands they've learned from. They've
Of
toured with
course.
like Goat Whore or something that are just like legendary as far as like bands that have been doing this for fucking 20 years, and they know so much. And it's I think really for me as an artist and a musician, I love going out on the road and just like picking up little like tips and tricks from other people. It's you're always learning. Like, and that's what's I think the reason we keep doing this is like we're getting older, but there's always shit you can learn. Like
Of course.
I'm I am like in my mind, I'm like a beginning drummer. Like I might be playing the drums for 20, 30 years, but I'm always learning. Like I'm
Of
always trying to
course.
push myself to be like, just get that much better, go back and like relearn the rudiments. Like right now I'm literally going back through like every, drum book I have and just relearning to play rudiments and different stickings, because then you work that into your
Right.
craft you already have. It makes you that much better.
Right. And then do you have any weird rider requests or tour rituals?
Um, no, I think, you know, the thing that touring on our level teaches you is that you have to sort of be very flexible and malleable and accommodating to all situations.
Right.
We'll go from you know, playing Hell's Heroes on the outdoor stage with a full crew and a stage manager and, you know, wireless rigs that are given to us for our in-ears, front of a house guy like mixing you perfectly. I mean, and then playing for thousands of people
Right.
on a big outdoor stage to then playing like, you know, Tempe, Arizona,
Right.
for like 5 people. You know, like it's like, you
Yeah.
know, you have to sort of really be kind of mentally prepared for anything. I think for us as a band, what we're really good at is, I think, a level of professionalism.
Mhm.
We always warm up religiously. We always have a sort of pre-show ritual, you know, whether it's like some kind of like incense or candles or like in a darkened room and just warming your, I mean, your wrists need to be warmed up. You need to just get the blood flowing. I mean, you know, as a bass player, if you go out cold, you're you're gonna freeze up if you're picking a hand.
Right.
If you're not loose, like
Right.
the thing I've learned as a drummer is like it's like you already sort of need to be kind of at the level you want to be on stage. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
already need to be like hot and sweaty and like blood flowing and like you need to be ready because that first note of that first song, like it has to hit. You don't need, I don't get like a song or two to warm up. You know, we're not playing like hour and a half, 2 hour sets. Like we get 40 minutes I want every single note to count. So yeah, I would say our pre-show ritual and warm-ups are like we have to do it no matter where we are.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I love asking because you go on tour, you know, is there any restaurants you guys stop at that's your favorite and what's your order?
Well, I would be remiss as a California resident if I did not mention In-N-Out
Of
Burger.
course.
Um, it's like to say it's a ritual is, you know, I mean, it's if there's an In-N-Out anywhere nearby, we stop at In-N-Out. My I'll go into my In-N-Out order, which I'll try to be brief, but I love In-N-Out, so don't take this as a diss, or this is hopefully not blasphemy, but fuck their fries. Their fries suck.
Of course. I agree, man. I'm from
Good.
California. I agree.
Thank you. So for me, it's a double double and a Neapolitan shake. I don't
Ooh.
fuck with the fries, but I love a milkshake. So like, yeah. So you still get the burger. I'll get a double double. Maybe I'll get an animal style, like whatever. I'll change it up a little bit. But yeah, I always get the shake because I
They do
love it.
make good shakes, not
The
gonna lie.
milkshake is good, and the Neapolitan shake, you get like the best of all worlds, of all three worlds. So you know, stereotypically again, as a western half of the US, like Bucky's, like we just once we get into Bucky's country, we're going to Bucky's 100%, and trying to not leave with a shopping cart full of snacks, but we love it.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
do
all
you at least have the onesie that they have at Buc-ee's? Come on, you have to have the onesie.
we have not got into onesie territory. We're in Bucky's hat and t-shirt enthusiasts, but we'll get to the onesies eventually. We need to get a few more tours under our belt, and then we'll rock
Right,
the onesies.
right, and is there any tour pranks you have endured or you have done that, you know?
Oh man, tour pranks.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had a really good story. I could probably, if I sat here long enough, I could probably come up with something. But I will say we're all pretty. Three members of the band are in their mid to late 40s, and we're pretty old and pretty boring, and we don't party, and we don't really. All that stuff's kind of behind us. We're not a party band. We're pretty professional, and we're pretty business and straight laced. So, but we're still a bunch of dudes on the road. So yeah, we
Right.
constantly fuck with each other, and it's mostly teasing and playing small pranks on each other. But like it's all good natured. It's all in good fun.
And with this being your 3rd record, you guys have accomplished a lot already, and you've been talking about accomplishing more. What are stuff on your bucket list that you haven't accomplished that you're looking forward to?
Oh man, I have to say I know I already talked about it, but Europe, like we um our Van Labrakis, our lead singer, vocalist, guitarist,
Mm.
demo maniac. He's Greek. He grew up in Athens, Greece. He lived in Berlin for 10 years. He lived in the UK for a bit. Um, we kind of are a European band in
Mhm.
California, you know? So like every tour we've done, every record we've released, everybody tells us, "Oh man, you guys would do really good in Europe. Like Europe would love you guys." And we know. And like the thing about going to Europe is like I feel like in America we kind of have to explain what we're doing.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, we're like kind of like, like a traditional 80s heavy metal band, but with black metal vocals. And people are
Yeah,
like, I don't get it. But like I feel like Europe just would just understand what we're doing.
of course.
So I would say our number one goal in the next year, calendar year, definitely, get a European tour, at least some European festival appearances under our belt. That's our main
That's
focus.
that's a good one, and outside of music, what is something that no one would expect from you?
No one would expect from me.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in California, so I'm a surfer. I go to the beach all the time. I love the outdoors. I have a dog. I love walking on the beach, and yeah, I love like we're just a bunch of hippies. I mean, it's we might be in like this like evil sounding black metal band, but like our bassist Avi's born and bred Californian. He's like the most California dude I've
Right.
ever met. His parents are originally from India, so he's of Indian descent. But like, I tease him all the time because I'm just like, not a lot. Are you in California as well? As you mentioned,
Yeah, LA area.
you're LA, yeah. So like, it's the same thing. Where like everybody's from somewhere else, right? You're like, oh, where are you originally from? But it's like Avi, our bassist, is like he is the most California Bay Area dude ever. Like it's so funny. Like I fuck with him constantly. I'm just like, dude, you're so California. Because I grew up in Ohio. Our guitarist Scott grew up in Pennsylvania. But like I've been here over 20 years. Like
Right.
I feel like I've lived in San Francisco longer than I've lived anywhere else. So I
Of
feel very
course.
Californian. Um, but yeah, we're just a bunch of fucking hippies in San Francisco. It's hilarious. Lots of hiking, lots of outdoors, surfing. Yeah.
And what does your playlist look like on the road compared to being at home?
Oh shit, on the road. Well, mine doesn't differ too much, and that's mostly because I am the only member of the band that is listens to country music. I'm a huge country music fan, and so I subject those guys to country music, and I sing along loudly. And I'm a drummer, and I have a terrible voice, so I don't change my playlist for the road. But you do make playlist like there. I'll take that back. I do have a kind of running playlist of just like when I hear a song, I'm like, oh man, that riff's fucking amazing. Or I love that drum break, or I love that beat that this guy's playing in the chorus or the verse. And so I'll have a constantly evolving playlist of like I think I call it songs that fuck. I'll just go like
That
like I'm like, oh, this song fucks, yeah, like it just gets you excited.
you sound like Rita Dimebank's widow because we
Yes.
were hanging out with her at NAM. She brought us on the bus to drink with her at night, like
Oh,
2 o'clock in the
cool.
morning, and she's like, "You guys want to listen to the songs that fuck, or do you want to listen to?" And I was like, "Let's listen to the songs that fuck."
Can't say no, right? As soon as
Right?
you hear that, you're like, I gotta know what this sounds like. So yeah, I'm glad me and Rita are soulmates
Right.
in that realm. That's awesome.
And then I have to ask, you guys are black and heavy metal. For you, what would your Mount Rushmore be of black and heavy metal?
Of black and heavy metal,
Yeah.
I think it would be for me, and I can't answer for the other guys, but for me, it would be Abbott from Immortal fronting uh, mid 80s era Sabotage.
Okay.
And like and Abba did that I band, which was amazing, and we took big inspiration from that one record they made. Um, but yeah, there's something about like just like grim, blackened like vocals over like big, heavy like 80s like rock and beats.
Okay.
So like yeah, a huge touch point in the band has been Sabotage, and just what incredible composers that band were. And still are apparently. If John Oliva would ever release the Sabotage album that apparently exists, but will never come out because he keeps fucking hurting himself or whatever. I hope he doesn't die. I mean, to be honest, I really hope that. He's not a young man and he does not taking care of himself. But John, release the fucking Sabotage album. Come on.
Right.
I'm sure it's great.
And where can everyone keep up with you guys and buy this new fantastic record?
Season of Mist. Whether you're in Europe or in the US, they have distribution and shipping to everywhere in the world. So Season of Mist has all of the stuff. You can pre-order the album. There's a ton of merch that we're releasing with the record too: t-shirts, long sleeves. We have vinyl, CDs. They have everything at Season of Mist. So if you go to seasonofmist.com, they will have all that stuff.
And I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Of course, this was awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. It was a great time, and I love your background too.
I get that every interview. It's so funny.
Michael Myers, like, what is Michael Myers wearing? Is he like a what's his like scarf? It's awesome. The whole thing.
It's King Diamond. He's wearing like a vest because I do base covers on Instagram. He's wearing a vest with patches on it, and then he's wearing a King Diamond. And then Beetlejuice is wearing my other King Diamond.
Got it.
And then poor Freddy's he was wearing a kitty shirt, but I took it back.
I mean, the Freddy sweater is classic. You can't fuck with that. That's amazing, dude. I love it. It's such a great vibe.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna end this real quick.